Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Said King. Today we're going to do a teardown on a 3RZ. There's probably a few of you wondering what tools you're going to need. This is my little selection. I'll have 1/4 inch set, and then I'll have a half inch set of the sockets, all the way up to 30mm. I use everything from a 10mm all the way up to a 30mm, roughly, whatever. I've got 2 impact guns. One's a big buzzer, one's a little one. Obviously, ones I don't want to wreck, I'll use the little one or whatever. But this is basically it. Pair of pliers for taking off hose clamps and things like that that are in the way. And that's basically all you need. Alright guys, so we're at the point now, we've taken out the cams. You would have seen the cam bolt must have had a bucket load of Loctite on it because it was super hard to get undone. My impact gun ranges around 2000 Newton meters of torque, so that just shows you how stubborn it was. This engine is in quite poor health. I bought this off a guy for a couple of $100. Low compression engine, so it's due for a rebuild. So this is why we're doing it. I think it's actually been sitting out in the weather, this thing too, for a bit. Everything's really gunked up. Like if you look in here, you can barely see, but it's just, yeah, the oil's residue on here. You can barely even make out what the markings are on the cam caps. It's just, and this is what happens, guys, when you don't change your oil very often. This is why it's such an important thing to do, because it turns into slime and then gets stuck in your engine and slowly wrecks everything. So change your oil every 5,000 Ks. Use good synthetic oils and you guys will be all good. Righto guys, so this is what I was saying about poor engine maintenance. Can you see the thick sludge here? That is, it's just gross. Like, that's just going to be sitting around in your engine, just doing damage. This engine's probably been sitting for a while, and look at the state of the sump. It's literally like the oil's turned into grease. It's definitely a good thing that we pulled it apart and we're going to rebuild it. Because it is a mess. Anyway, let's keep rolling with the video. Alright guys, so we're going to do a little walkthrough now of exactly the whole sequence of events. I'm sure you just watched it, and now we're going to explain bit by bit and why we did what we did. So the first things you're going to remove is all the extra stuff on the engine. Let me show you that. So you're going to move the oil filter housing, all the coolant lines, the intake manifold, alternator brackets, the power steering bracket, the timing cover, like everything you can get off, get it off. And then as you would have seen, you start with the valve cover, drop the valve cover, or take it off, undo the cams caps. For some reason, this engine has been obviously rebuilt somewhere, somehow, wherever. Those cam caps were done ridiculously tight. The factory torque spec is 15 foot-pounds. Or 14 foot-pounds, and they were double that. They were probably like 40, so that was crazy. The head studs we're not reusing. We're not reusing those cams. That's why you see me throw them on the ground. We're definitely not reusing the head gasket, so we can toss that out. The sump, it's a four-wheel drive sump, so I might have a use for that. I don't know. But anyway, you take the sump cover off. You take the oil pickup off. Remove all those bolts and you'll be able to remove the timing cover, which is that piece there. Once you remove the timing cover, you can remove the timing chain, all the guides, everything on the front assembly. You can get rid of these, which are your balance shafts. Now, everyone talks about the balance shaft delete, and you can see here that they've got more meat on one side than they do on the other. So what these do, as the engine rotates, they'll spin with the sequence of piston being, I think the firing order is 1, 4, 2, 3. So they will rotate in sequence with them to balance the vibration out. And if you are like Andrew or Corey, who have solid mounted engines, you will regret this. But anyway, they literally take out probably about 30 horsepower out of the engine. So when you remove them, you can rev higher, and it free revs a little bit better. It's a big advantage. Anyway, the pistons, the stock pistons, we're not going to be reusing those, so we'll throw them out. The bearings, they're actually in quite good nick, but we're going to throw them all out because we're putting all new stuff in. And then the main piece of this artillery is the crank. Now, this crank, let me focus. got very, very little scoring on here. The crank is actually in really, really good condition. So, super stoked about that. And you're going to be left over with this. Alright, so sorry guys, me and Andrew just double checked that. The firing order is 1, 3, 4, 2. We're going to send this off to the machine shop. We're also going to send the head off to the machine shop. Give everything a mad clean.
I don't want to be on the film.
You're such a princess.
Yeah. So the first thing we're going to do is measure the block up. So we're going to measure these bores and make sure A, that it is still standard bore, and B, how oval these bores have become over the years, because obviously the piston doesn't actually push straight up and down, it's trying to push out into the sides, which can oval the bore.
Yep.
So we're going to measure that, and we're also going to measure to see how big of a lip we've got, and that'll determine what size piston we get and what size bore we end up with in the rebuilt motor. We will also measure up the crank and see how round those journals are, whether they've ever been machined before. And we'll give the crank a linish and see how it comes up, and whether we need to machine that as well, or whether we can just get away with the polish.
Mm-hmm.
Head will obviously come completely apart. All the valves, all the buckets, all the springs out.
Which is all in here, guys. So there's your bucket. Oh, can you get it, Andrew?
That will possibly.
That one's probably stuck. I know you got one of them out before. There we go.
There we go.
There's the bucket.
So this is the bucket which actually has your shim over on the top. So the thickness of this actually governs the clearance on the top of the valve. Too loose and you'll end up with a tapping type noise. Too tight and your valve will ride and you'll lose compression and end up with a misfire. But so all of these will come out. So guys, if you ever are pulling one of these apart and aren't going to be sending the head off for reconditioning, you do need to number these because they aren't all the same thickness. So make sure they go back in the same spot. But obviously because we're doing a reco and this is getting different cams, these are all going to be totally different anyway. So this will all come apart, all cleaned. Probably new guides, new valve stem seals. Are you going bigger valves in this engine?
Probably.
Probably bigger valves as well. So all of that will get done. New cams will get dummy fitted. That's how we'll measure up for the clearance for these. Have these redone. By that stage, we should have been able to source some pistons and had the pistons and block sent away to have the block machine to suit said pistons. We'll also need to probably hone the little ends in the new rods. They don't normally come clearanced correctly, so they will need to be clearanced to suit our gudgeon pin. The motor will probably go together three times before its final assembly to check things like deck height. And
deck height, for you guys just wondering, is the height of the piston to the top of the deck, which is very important. Very important. Also, worth mentioning, guys, is everything will get balanced. So each piston will get weighed, and we'll basically work out the weights, and then they get basically. So we'll pick the lightest one out of them all, and that will be our base figure. Say it's 20 grams. And then the other one's 23. We take out 3 grams of material to bring it all to 20 grams, so that each piston weighs 20 grams, for example.
Same thing will be done with the rods.
Yep.
And then the whole rotating assembly. So harmonic balancer all the way through to clutch plate, all bolted together, will be spun and balanced just like a wheel and tyre would be.
Yep. So that's the harmonic balancer. Well, it's not technically a balancer, is it? with
The
the 3
factory
Z.
one is a balancer. The
Yeah.
factory one is a harmonic balancer because that ring there is actually a rubber ring, a bonded ring.
That's what we had trouble with the other ones, haven't we? In the
Yeah,
past.
so
They separate.
that is known to separate, well, with age or once you start punching over the 600 horsepower figure. Now that ring is only on the back pulley.
Yeah.
The 2 forward pulleys are bolted to the steel center.
Yeah. Yeah.
The fun part about this is that your timing mark is on your back
the
ring.
one that spins.
So when that... now I can't find it.
Of course.
Saw it before.
There it is. No, that leading edge there. So me and Andrew have had this issue before with numerous engines. Not just one. We've had, what, three? Three now that have had spinning timing marks. And this, when you're actually trying to do a startup tune on an engine, it's near impossible to set the timing right because it's moving all over the bloody place, which is an absolute pain in the ass. Anyway, guys, we're going to do just a quick one. We're going to pull everything out that we're going to keep, just so that you can see what we're going to do here. Alright, guys, so this is what we're left with. That's everything we're not going to use. That's a 4-wheel drive sump, so it's not going to go on a 2-wheel drive. So the timing chain I'm going to throw out. The timing chain guides, we're going to replace all that. Pistons, bearings, head gasket, balance shaft, original cams. I might take the gears off those, but other than that, it's bin. So this is what we're going to keep. The block, the crank, timing cover, the rear main cover, the crank angle trigger and timing chain, the harmonic balancer, timing gear, the cylinder head, valve cover. There's not a hell of a lot. So all the other accessories that come on the engine, like your oil pump, oil filter housing, all these water lines and all this sort of stuff, engine mounts, all that sort of stuff, you got to keep that. This is just what I'm showing you here is what I'm going to keep out of this particular engine, which I will be rebuilding and using all those accessories which I've kept. They're in a little shelf under there. Engine mounts and thermostat housing cover and whatever. There's little bits and pieces there. I've just got to be cleaned and ready for reassembly. Another hot tip, guys. When you pull your belts out, label them where they went. So sump, timing cover, thrust washers, your crank angle, your cam angle sensor. Bag it all up, put it away somewhere safe so you don't lose anything. Because otherwise you'll end up with a bucket of bolts and you have no idea where everything came from. Anyway, guys, we'll just, yeah. Righto, guys, so that is it. That is the raw teardown of a 3RZ. We showed you the parts we're going to keep and the ones that we're not going to keep. Now, obviously, this is going to change to your needs. Like, what I'm building here is going to be for a supercharged M9. I just told you guys, damn it. I didn't mean to tell you that. But, Anyway, so I'm doing a M90 supercharged build. Andrew's having a good giggle. With giant cams. They're going to have probably the Kelford 180Ds, which I have in mind at the moment. So I'm going to need different valve springs for the head. I'm going to need a few other things going on there. So I'll take you through that part of the journey as well. There is a couple of videos I have coming up that's going to be pretty interesting to you guys. What I want to do is a video series on the cylinder head, and what I'm going to do is port it, and I want to take it down and flow test it. And what I'm going to do is take a single a head that hasn't been touched, so an untouched one, unported, as it is, how it is, dirty and all, and chuck it on the flow bench, see how it flows like from factory, and then see what I've done as port work to see how much it's actually improved it or hasn't improved it, or you just don't know with these things. So that is on the cards for in the near future. It's not going to happen tomorrow or next week, but in the probably by the, in the next couple of months. So that'll be really, really interesting, not for me, but for you guys as well, to go through that. And also, probably going to do, I'm thinking, oversized valves and factory valves. So see what the difference is there. And there's going to be lots of other interesting things like the degree, the angle of the valve cut, or multi-layered valve cutting as well, or multi-angle, sorry. A few other things that I want to talk to you guys about and show you what I know, which is very little. Yeah, we're gonna take you through the whole process. So machining, the whole works, and you guys get to come along for the journey. As much as I can film, and because there's certain people and places that won't let me film, so you know, as much as I can, and explain to you the whole lot. So you're gonna basically build an engine with me on YouTube. So hang in there, guys. Everyone, I hope you're doing really well, and I'll catch up with you all real soon. Cheers. Alright guys, so that's it. That is the raw respect. Alright guys, so that is the raw teardown of a 3RZ engine. Obviously time-lapsing things. Andrew's gonna throw something at me. Stick me up. You got me. You got me. Alright,